Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, Leveraging the Cloud and Power BI to Deliver Actionable Business Information. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to join us. There are a couple of housekeeping items we'd like to mention before we begin the presentation. All attendees are in listen-only mode. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please either raise your hand so that we can unmute you or submit them through the GoToWebinar question box. We'll be answering questions throughout the presentation, and we'll also be following up after the presentation to answer any additional questions. I'd like to introduce today's speakers. We have Jeff Smith, who is a solutions architect here at Socius. For over 20 years, Jeff has specialized in project management, product engineering, and consulting for Microsoft Dynamics solutions at Socius. We also have Bert Burry, Cloud Services Manager. Bert is a B2G SaaS sales support professional with several years of experience in selling and providing technical support for cloud service products including ERP, contract management, and online auction services for government. So at this point, Jeff and Bert, I believe, are ready to transition the presentation over to you to get started.
Thank you very much, and again, welcome. We appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedules, I'm sure, to attend our presentation today as we talk about leveraging the cloud and Power BI to deliver actionable business information. We appreciate the opportunity to present to you, and we're going to go through a quick agenda here of what we have here. We're going to talk a little bit about some information about what the cloud does, cloud value, cloud deployment, and some partner resource opportunities as well. A little bit of brief history and information about Socius. Socius specializes in providing ERP, CRM, business intelligence, and collaboration solutions for Microsoft Dynamics and Sage, as well as technology based on Microsoft SharePoint Server. We're currently headquartered in Dublin, Ohio, and we proudly serve clients across the United States from our growing number of locations. We have more than 6 locations nationwide currently, and through an extensive list of specialized consulting services, we also have an array of software-specific solution packages. We work to improve your productivity, empower your staff, and streamline and automate your business processes. We are also a Cloud Partner of the Year 2014 finalist with Microsoft. We're a Master VAR with more than 23 affiliates across the United States and more than 500 active affiliate clients. Socius in Latin means ally, and we certainly hope to become and build on the existing trusted advisor relationships and allies that we have in the forms of our clients. When you take a look at some of the clients that we have, you can see a wide variety here of outfits and firms that we have working with us. We're proud to serve manufacturing, distribution, professional services, non-for-profit organizations, and even a few public entities all use our services in some variety, whether it's in ERP or in the cloud service practice. As we get into our conversation about cloud, it's very important to kind of get an understanding of what it is that the cloud really does and what the expectation would be from cloud. Most people today have some sort of interaction with the cloud. Most folks have a mobile device, smartphone, if you will, that accesses the cloud in some size, shape, or form. Most commonly, people take photographs and then upload them to that cloud and share them with friends and family on other devices. That is using cloud technology. But it's very interesting because a lot of people don't really view that as cloud technology, and as people grow and get excited to learn about cloud technology, they sometimes have an expectation or very little expectation about what the cloud does. One of the things we'd like to talk about today in this session is to talk about some of the expectations that people have for the cloud and how the cloud can be leveraged to help your organization grow exponentially. The cartoons that you see on the bottom here are just a little light humor to kind of leverage the idea of what the expectation in cloud really is. You can see on the far right there, the man carrying the briefcase has no worries, and the reason for that is because all of his cares and concerns have been put into the cloud. And that is kind of a little exaggeration, but we're going to show you how you can have a lot more confidence in your business and the direction that it's taking when you deploy cloud. When we talk about cloud expectations, one of the quick questions that comes to mind is what exactly does the cloud do? And these titles here on this slide really help resonate and talk about what it is that the cloud does. It increases scalability and increases flexibility, increases cost savings, access and mobility, and simplifies licensing and complexity. All the while it reduces overhead, data loss, and downtime. In terms of scalability, one of the nice things about the cloud is that it has the ability to dial up or grow with your business as your business grows. At the same token, if you're one of these seasonal organizations, in off-peak times, your cloud usage or your consumption, if you will, can be dialed down a little bit, decrease the number of users. So that actually helps become more optimum solution for your organizations rather than having a bunch of unused hardware that is deployed and not being used in an off-peak time. That also transcends into flexibility and cost savings because there's no point in paying for equipment and paying for hardware that's currently not being used. It increases access and mobility. It allows your users to become untethered from the workplace environment. It allows them to access remotely into the cloud environment and have the same level of expectation and access to the applications anywhere they have a reliable internet connection. With our software as a service model or SaaS model, it simplifies licensing and complexity because we handle all the interactions with Microsoft and the ERP and take care of all the licensing structure and complexity for you, so you do not have to worry about that. It also reduces the overhead, and what that basically does is it allows your IT departments, if you have them, to focus on other projects internally instead of trying to become a one-stop shop for expertise in the area of ERP and other types of deployment. It allows them to reallocate their resources for more productive projects internally. The cloud also reduces data loss and downtime, and that is because the backups and the high availability and the redundancies that are available in the cloud, and we'll talk a little bit about them in the next couple of slides. It's very important to communicate and help you understand cloud, particularly in terms of where the data goes. Sometimes people are afraid of the cloud or have a little bit of a disconnect with it because they are fearful of where their data goes. You know, if it's on-premise, you can walk down the hall and see the servers humming in a closet or in a room, but when you go with the cloud, you just can't see that. So one of the things that we like to talk about exactly is where the data does go and how that actually works. One of the analogies that we find to be most successful is to kind of talk a little bit about contents of the cloud and where that data is stored. In this analogy, we talk about a safe deposit box. Years ago, people would go and store valuables, including papers and articles, in a bank, and they would actually rent a safe deposit box in the bank vault. And basically what that was is that you would have a key and the head teller would have a key. Those two keys together would open up the contents of your safety deposit box in the vault. When you rented the safety deposit box, you did not have the expectation that you would have access to the entire contents of the bank or the contents of other users or other renters' drawers. You only had the expectation that you'd have access to your drawer. Well, the same thing holds true for the cloud. The cloud, much like a bank, is physically secure. You know, we'll talk about that here in a minute. It's got protections in place to protect it from a wide variety of threats. But when you go to a data center, you do not have the expectation that you would be able to see or have access to anyone else's data. That data is really pigeonholed or drawered, if you will, in various racks and in various routers and servers that are partitioned into smaller amounts of space that only you have access to your data, so that no one else has the opportunity to look over or peer over your shoulder or see or have any access to your data other than to those individuals that you grant access for. Again, both bank and the data center are off-site and both are very secure. Let's take a little look at the data center and what that really is. This is an example of a footprint that we have here at the Socius Cloud. Our cloud is co-located with our data centers, and we have state-of-the-art electronic and physical security, as well as 24/7, 365 staffing that ensures the security of your data. The data is secured through multiple layers of physical security, also secured again at the location of our racks within the data center, and we have multiple levels of physical electronic security at our rack locations besides the high-level security that's currently set in place by the data center. So what kind of value does Socius Cloud bring to the table? We realize that you have a choice in hosting providers, and it's important to kind of take a look to see what type of value the Socius Cloud can bring besides just hosting services. We're an experienced ERP setup and configuration, which means that we basically have the ability to know what's best for our clients in terms of ERP experience. We also have monthly maintenance, safety and security, reliability and mobility. All of these things are very prevalent in cloud technology, but we here at Socius have so much more to offer than just hosting services. By working with the ERP and having more than 30 years of ERP experience, we feel that we have great knowledge and expertise to be able to provision the exact specifications that are best suited for the particular ERP that you're running, and on top of that, specifically for your particular business model and the number of users that you have. One of the other benefits, of course, of Socius Cloud here is Socius Analytics and Business Intelligence, which we're going to be talking about a little later on in this presentation with my associate, Jeff Smith. And lastly, on this slide, we want to talk about predictability in terms of costs. When you look at the cloud solution, you have the predictability of expenditures, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in the next slide or two. I mentioned on the last slide here of the 30 years of ERP experience within Socius. We do have more than 30 years of ERP experience. We have a professional full staff of resources. We're not a limited practice that tries to do it all. We're very dedicated in our practices. We have more than 50 cloud clients currently in our environments today, and we also have a wide variety of client care professionals that can help you at the application level as well. In terms of leadership, also, we are a 2014 Microsoft Cloud Partner finalist and a 2015 Inner Circle Partner for Microsoft. We have more than 8 years of dedicated cloud practice, and we have a dedicated cloud team of more than 5 individuals who are constantly working and monitoring the environment for continued process improvement. We're also, this year, a Microsoft Cloud Solution Provider, Tier 1, which means we're able to leverage and sell the entire Microsoft stack across multiple platforms, but particularly in a cloud solution environment. A few moments ago, I talked about the financial fixed costs, but that really comes down to financial predictability. And this is a great point for people who are looking to budget long-term for their organization. As you can see on the slide here, in a capital expenditure, it's deductible a period over time, typically 36 months. There's large upfront costs that are there. And then you also run into the case of dealing with perhaps multiple or many vendors. And then there's always the asset management component. When you look at the cloud, in contrast, it's more of an operating expenditure. You have an immediate deductible. You end up dealing with one or very few vendors. Then you have that monthly billing, which is easy to budget. And it's easy to budget because it's based on a per user cost for accessing to the cloud. And it's very predictable so that you can tell as you dial up or dial down your users what your monthly expenditures are going to be. You can easily predict ongoing software and hardware expenses very easily, and then you could add or remove those users, which goes back to talking about the flexibility and the scalability. So you can downsize or add users during busy or off-peak times of the year. Also, in terms of reliability and security, this is another great key component of the cloud environment, in particular what Socius Cloud Services can bring to the table. There's that greater reliability of being off-premise, data center redundancy, and internet connectivity. Most on-premise installations have a single point of internet that's coming in, and our data centers, we have more than 3 that come in, which replicate connectivity to the internet. There's also 24/7, 365 monitoring, and more importantly, resolution. Anyone can monitor a connection, but only Socius has the ability to provide true resolution, not only at the application level, but also at the environment level. Improved mobility and productivity. You can access the environment either through RDP, which is Remote Desktop Protocol. You basically dial in, through the internet connection and have a desktop that's replicated on your screen, very easy to navigate, or you can actually access the ERP directly through a web client or web browser. You can access it via the internet anywhere there's a reliable connection, which allows you true mobility and functionality by accessing it from hotspots, hotels, coffee shops, and even working from home. Security and safety are a primary concern of ours, and we're happy to tell you that our cloud environment is compliant with all federal, state, local, and international regulations through our data center, including SSAE 16, HIPAA, Sarbanes-Oxley, and the European Union's Safe Harbor. The deliverables to consider versus on-premise is that we have reliable backup and unified recovery. It's a secure environment. We replicate the client data across our cloud environment on a nightly basis, and that replication actually occurs in 3 separate instances. With Dynamics GP, your data restoration is available up into the last 15 minutes of transactional activity. You don't have any future hardware investments. All updates and hot fixes are applied, and it's current and compliant with all current licensing. This is just a quick slide that identifies some of the professional setup and configuration that we do in our cloud environment, the managing of licensing as we spoke about before, the setup and configuration of the servers, the ERP, remote desktop connections, printer drivers, all these things, everything basically, in other words, that makes you operate your ERP efficiently. In terms of monthly maintenance, there's some value-added services that we have here, and in terms of this, we talk about the installation of Windows updates for operating servers, the service packs and the hot fixes, troubleshooting of network connectivity, monitoring the server logs, maintaining firewall security, as well as Active Directories and secure group policies. As we dig in a little deeper or take a deeper dive into cloud deployment, there are 2 different types of clouds, really 3, but 2 here. Public cloud is like Microsoft CRM Online or even Amazon Web Services or Google come to mind. Upgrades are done basically at the provider's discretion. There's limited customization, and they tend to be a little bit cheaper than a private cloud. However, the value in a private cloud is that they're managed by third-party organizations such as Socius, and they're tailored for a specific client based on their particular needs. And that's exactly what we do with our interaction of each and every single client in our cloud environment. This slide here talks about cloud deployment in terms of 2 different options that we have available. We have infrastructure as a service, and we have software as a service. Infrastructure as a service in the Socius Cloud is best suited if you as a client own the software and you're current on your maintenance. If, however, your software licensing has lapsed in some capacity, it's probably a better choice to go with software as a service. And basically what that means is we actually include all the licensing that is necessary to run your ERP and manage that, and that's part of your subscription to the cloud services. As we take a look at this next slide here, it kind of gives you an idea of what types of details are available in infrastructure as a service. At a technical level, the virtual terminal servers are included, the operating licenses for the system, the SQL licenses, antivirus backup licensing, and of course monitoring licensing for level platforms, which basically is monitoring the environment for continuous health. So we're proactively monitoring your connections so that we can identify any problems well before they become an issue and your users can even notice them. In the following slide, we actually compare this with software as a service. And the only thing that's different from the 2 slides here is the number 1 checkbox here. This is where we provide dynamic software licensing. This is where we actually provide you for the licensing for your ERP. All other factors remain exactly the same. One of the other values that Socius Cloud has available as well is talking a little bit about business analytics. Socius is the cloud partner that can provide powerful business analytics in our cloud. It allows you to actually look and implement business intelligence, which actually takes it to a deeper level, and it's much more than reporting. You gain actually the mindset of becoming a learning organization where you learn more about your organization as it continues to ebb and flow and continues to grow. Consider it looking forward rather than always looking in the rearview mirror. Traditionally, when you're looking at data and in typical reports, you're looking at events that have occurred in the past. Well, with business intelligence, it allows you to look at that data in real time and move forward and allows you to have the ability to make decisions in real time. So it's actionable data that allows you to be more proactive rather than reactive. And again, it's mobile and allows you to have these access to these reports anywhere you have an internet connection. And the next slide here talks a little bit more about the business analytics, gives you an idea of what some of these charts, bar graphs, and some of this data can be as it's really actionable as it gets into that. With that in mind, I'd like to introduce my associate, Jeff Smith, and he will actually begin talking a little bit more about the strategies of business intelligence and how you can leverage BI, business intelligence, for your organization and hopefully partner, if you're not already, with Socius Cloud Services to get the most out of your resources for your organization. Jeff?
Thanks, Bert. I really appreciate that and appreciate everyone's attendance today. We certainly want to make sure that you get a better understanding of what Socius and Microsoft bring to the table with Power BI. Which will be the business intelligence tool, the business analytics tool that can really change your business. There's a couple things that I really wanted to talk about is, first of all, it's really important to understand that business intelligence is more than just reporting. And so, as Bert had mentioned earlier, the ability to interact with your data and in a self-service way, it really makes the data far more powerful for you. And the fact that it's mobile, so it's traveling with you as you go. So if you're an iPad user, if you have your phone with you and you need to see this information up to date, you'll be able to do that. But ultimately, the idea is to provide you with greater business insight. I'm going to spend a little bit of time today. I'm working in a demo environment that is for a company called Contoso, and we're going to look at some information that is sales and inventory related, but we're going to consider some other things that I think you might find interesting. And the other thing that I'd like to say about that is that business intelligence really goes across every business, and it goes into all the different areas of a business. So whether we're talking about sales and inventory, as we're going to show some examples today, or whether we're talking about professional services and employee productivity, you know, all of those different things can play a role, and you can get more information to make better decisions. You can discover trends and understand some of the outside influences to your business. And so that's really what I hope to spend the next 15 or 20 minutes talking about with you. So first of all, we're going to start off with a dashboard that is really focused on our business sales. And you'll notice that there's a couple components here. I have what I call slicers. These slicers focus on different things such as months or years or products. So if my organization provides a variety of different goods and services, I have the ability to analyze information based on those as well. You'll also notice that there's some graphical presentation here. So in this example, I'm showing you sales quantity versus inventory quantity. So if you're a distributor, think about how important it is during your busy seasons to be able to have enough quantity on hand to make sure that you fulfill all the orders that are coming in, making sure that you're meeting your clients' expectations and providing good service so that they come back again and again. Also, you'll notice that there's also some mapping functionality here, and we'll get into that, and you'll be able to analyze your data based upon the location of your clients, your employees, etc. So I'm going to start off simply by making a selection here under my calendar year, and I just want to show you that as we work here and I select 2007 as my year, you may have noticed that my graphic changed. So as I unmark it, and you'll notice that I mark it, the data switches appropriately to indicate the selection that I had made. So in this case, what I have is I've selected the year 2007. I know that was a long time ago, but our data set fits that. And then you'll notice here that I also have our products. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate this data set now down to just games and toys. And as I do that, you'll notice that, again, the graphic presentation adjusts itself. And there's some very interesting things that you're finding here as you look at this, is that you'll notice that my quantity on hand dips below my sales quantity for the first 4 weeks in the year. So as I'm analyzing my data, I realize that I have an issue with games and toys in the month of January. So, and you can notice here also these graphics are interactive. So as I move across the graphic, you'll see that the numbers change to indicate what activities were actually occurring. So you can see my on-hand quantities. So at week 5, I had 58,581 of this item. At week 5 or week 4, my sales quantity was 33,151, but you'll also notice that I'm below here. So that is a quick indicator to me that I have a problem, and I need to really address that, and that's something that I need to keep a close eye on. Also in our mapping, you'll notice that I have on my maps I have different spots that I can highlight. So you'll notice that if I hover over the state of Texas, you'll notice that my sales for the state of Texas were 1,002,000 or 1,020,000, and as I highlight that or click on that, you'll notice that my data again moves based upon the location. So now I'm looking at 2007 data for games and toys in Texas. So I can very easily analyze this data. If I wanted to look at a wider swath of data, I can certainly select 2008, for instance, and 2009, so that my data set changes. And this really gives me the ability to continue to evaluate based upon year over year, month over month, product by product. A couple other things that are really important is you'll notice down here at the bottom I have an option for sales versus returns, and I have this in a bar chart, and I can highlight that, and as I do, it interacts directly with everything else that goes on in this particular dashboard. If I would prefer to have a column chart rather than a bar chart, I simply can move up here to my visualizations area, and now I have a column chart. You'll notice that this chart also allows me to build in such things as sales quantity plus return quantity, and it highlights them differently. And really, this can be very important to your organization if you're selling products and you're getting a lot of them back. And so what you can see here is if I'm looking at computers, I might get a different view than if I'm looking at games and toys. So as I make a move here, my data changes to the data that I've selected. And so really very, very insightful, very easy to maneuver and use. As an end user, I can look at data differently. I can slice and dice differently. It's very self-service. That's not to say that just anyone can set this up, but I think the point is that if you make a tool available for your organization, different people can look at these different pieces of information, and they can evaluate it based upon their role in the organization. So I'm going to go a little bit further because I really want you to understand that this really, if you look at this, this is providing us insight on what's happened so far. But one of the things that's also important is to understand business trends. So if I go down here and select product, you'll see that I get a totally different graphic with a lot of different information as well. And I have different graphics, and these are just different types of ways that I can show my information in a graphical way that it's easy to digest for the consumer of the data. So what I'm doing here is I have down here in the bottom left, I have what we would call a tree map. And this tree map is really showing all the different products that I provide with my organization. So I can simply click on cameras and it will then rearrange my data. But you'll notice that all of the other pieces are interacting with it. So I can notice up here that you know, the graphic for cameras, I can see how much of it is sales, how much of those sales are online, if that's important to me, because I may be a multi-channel organization and I'm bringing my product to my clients in the most convenient way for them. And this allows me to analyze how are people buying from me, and it makes it easier for me to then determine what's the best way to market to these folks, what's the best way to make sure I get my message out so that we can continue to grow our business. And so this can be really, really important. I have the ability to select multiple products. Through this, you can see that I can select TV and video, cell phones and camera and camcorders. And you'll also notice that then we have the ability to look at it in more of a splatter graph where I'm looking at sales amount by sales quantity. So this allows me to analyze my data a little differently. So maybe here I might look at the information and say, what are my high-priced items and less quantity that I sell, but I still make good revenue versus those slow and small market items and I have to work a lot higher. Allows me to make better decisions. Okay, so hopefully that makes lots of sense. Another thing that's really neat and can really provide you with some insight is being able to pull in some data that may not exist in your ERP. It may not exist in your CRM. It may not exist in those outside tools that you're going to use. But bringing in such variables in this case is like, for instance, let's say we're going to bring in promotions. So what we can do is, for instance, I can select the country of China, see how much I'm selling in China. I have the ability to then select promotions, and you'll notice that maybe there are promotions that I have inside of my organization that are specifically for the Asian market. And so I can very quickly here select my holiday promotion. And notice it redraws. It gives me an idea of what my numbers are for that particular promotion. I can add my spring promotion to that, and again it'll redraw my data, it'll redraw my sales amount by quantity, and it'll update basically the channel information as well. And then I may have had a summer promotion, and if I did that, then I can again redraw my data and see. And all of the time this is allowing me to see what's effective from promotions that I may not have recorded anywhere other than maybe I have campaigns in my CRM system. And that brings up the point that I do have the ability to bring in multi-source data, and we'll see some other examples of that. But the idea of being able to pull data in from multiple places and bring it together to provide you meaningful information. So as an example, we've talked to a restaurant, and maybe they would like to pull data from their ERP system, but they'd also like to pull information from their point of sale system. And that's an example that is a real example that could be useful. Maybe I am a museum and I sell tickets and I track attendance. I can bring that data in from an outside solution outside of ERP, but then I can compare revenue to that information. And so it really does allow me to really get down to a consolidated area to really take a look at what's going on in my organization and then make better decisions for the future. So if I now would switch from China, well, one more thing I wanted to talk about on China is you'll notice that as I look at China, I can see that I don't really have any store sales in China. And you can see that I have a lot of online sales. and I also have, I don't have any reseller. So most of my business is online within China. But let's say I want to look at that and maybe analyze it a little differently. Let's look at Canada. So in Canada, I may have a totally different picture, because what it looks like here in Canada is that everything is sold in the store. And so again, this gets into then being able to analyze what are my different mediums for delivering my products. How do I deliver those most effectively? What are people reacting to? So are my online sales a lot better in China than they are in Canada for some specific reason? Or is it because I haven't really taken, I haven't had the initiative yet to really go online in Canada? So, you know, again, providing you with good insight and comparing what's the best medium to contact and get to your clients. All right. So the next area that I'd like to go to is this weather tab, and you're thinking, well, what in the world could the weather tab be? This is really very insightful. And so an example that I have been privy to is there's a restaurant that has point of sales that aren't part of the ERP solution. They feed the ERP, but the point of sale is going to track what products I'm selling by hour, you know, and it's going to give me the ability to analyze who's buying what. But what if I throw in the component of weather? What if I know that it was a very rainy April in the city of Columbus, Ohio, and I look at my sales and they're higher or they're lower? Or what if it's a very cold winter and I see that my delivery is much higher because people don't want to go out of the house? I can start to really measure that kind of thing by looking at the weather. We can pull in weather data that can come in directly from a weather website. So it can actually, if there's a table inside of their website, that we can evaluate that, determine if it's pulling the information we want, and then we can start to build really important information. So as you can see here, for instance, I got sales quantity and precipitation by month. I can build in, for instance, additional information. So for instance, if I'm selling air conditioners, I can look at that and how it works in relative terms to the weather. I might want to look at it for instance, a particular year. I may want, because we know it was an exceptionally cold year, I can look at January, February, and March and really start to get a better picture. And you'll notice that my air conditioner sales quantity actually went up as it started to warm up in March. And isn't that how it really works? As we see people not necessarily thinking about their air conditioner in January, but as it starts to warm up and it starts to get into the spring season, people are starting to then purchase air conditioners. And you can do this with all of your products, and you can really find some very interesting data that you may not have really considered. Some other information beyond weather that might be something that you want to consider is traffic data. You know, again, if I use something like Google, their website traffic? What if I measure traffic and how that affects my business? So you can see that this information can really, really provide you with great insight. And again, being available in a variety of different means. I'm going to, as my time is running short, I'm going to just real quickly run over to one last area that is my online sales basket. And this is this could be interesting for a variety of reasons and in a variety of different places, whether you have a gift shop and I'm a hospital, whether I'm a museum with a gift shop, or whether I'm a retail outlet. Maybe finding out who's buying what products in what circumstances and what combinations of products are people buying. So as an example here, what I can do is I can select, let's say, computers. All right, and from there I might then want to select laptop computers. And from there, maybe what I'm going to do is pick this particular laptop. And then what I can find over here is I can find out how many orders that I have for that particular item that were in combination with another product. So 18% of the time when someone purchased the AdventureWorks Laptop 12, they also purchased a wireless notebook optical mouse. Now, if I'm a retailer or a distributor, how important is that for me to know? That's incredibly good to know, and it can affect my marketing efforts as I may bundle products together to increase or enhance my sales efforts. So it really does show how these products can relate to one another, and it shows how you know, your business is working, things that you might not uncover if you're just looking at a report. So if I'm just looking at a report, I might see that I sold 38 notebook optical mouse, but I may not realize that that was also purchased in conjunction with another product. So again, very, very insightful. Okay, so I just wanted to spend one more minute. I'm going to go back here, and I just wanted to show you, in case I think it's really important to know as you look at these particular graphics, and we talked about this a little bit, how we can change it. But you know, a lot of times people like to look at things in more of a numeric area. So I actually have the ability, you can see that there are a variety of different visualizations that you can put together for this. So this is what's called a matrix, in which case I'm looking at data based upon just numbers versus bar graph. And column graph and things like that. So I guess in closing, the thing that's important for you to know is the more you know about your business and the more you know about these little nuances, the better decisions you can make, and you can make them more quickly if the data is always there and live for you, so that you can see trends more quickly, you can understand combinations, you can pull data from multiple sources, and really start to make very important choices. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and just make one last quick click here. And so Bert and I have been working on this, and we wanted to give you some next steps. So your cloud and business analytics strategy is more important than ever for your business. And you can see from Bert's compelling reasons to look and consider the cloud. Hopefully you saw value in what we're bringing to the table with our business analytics tools. And if you need more information, we provide that for you at our website. You also have the ability to reach out to us specifically. But if you go to the socius1.com/cloud, you'll be able to see FAQs. You'll be able to view and apply for a costing calculator, because it's important to know what the investment is versus an on-premise solution, and especially if any of you that are listening to us today are actually considering infrastructure as a service versus software as a service, because you already own Dynamics GP or AX or NAV or CRM. And then there's also some other information that helps you kind of move down that process. If you're looking for business intelligence, you can see that if you go to Socius1/Solutions Business Intelligence, you'll be able to download some additional Power BI videos and white papers so that you can continue to look into this. You can check out our Socius Analytics dashboards that we have on the web. And you can also read about some success stories, and I think that's really an important concept, because if you see how other users have put this to use and how they've benefited from it, it will help you get a better grip. It's always the power of the user and user groups and so forth, so that you can get some really good ideas on how it could make a difference for you. So as we finish up here, I'm going to just again share our email addresses and our phone numbers, and you should feel free to reach out to us via email or via phone, and we'll be glad to help. And so I'm going to turn it back over to Rebecca, and then we'll stick around and take some questions if you have those as well. Rebecca, it's back to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeff. So just a couple of additional items we wanted to mention before we start Q&A. All upcoming events and current promotions can be found on our website at socius1.com. Our next GP monthly user webinar will be on April 19th, covering using Word templates in Microsoft Dynamics GP. We are also excited to announce that our annual Aspire GP and CRM customer event will be hosted in 3 locations this year: Columbus on May 5th, Charlotte on May 10th, and Atlanta on May 12th. These events provide a great opportunity for you and your team to get in front of what's new with your product and tips and tricks of how to use your product, as well as to meet Socius and Microsoft executives and networking with other users. We highly encourage you to visit www.socius1.com/aspire to register. Then we're also offering some great promotions right now, including 5% off Scribe Insight license or a 3-year online subscription through March 31st, and a 15% discount when you commit to a trial and purchase of any Rockton software products by May 31st. So we'll go ahead and start on the questions. We do have one. What Dynamics GP release will Power BI work with?
Power BI can actually work with any release of Dynamics GP because it's leveraging data in SQL Server, which is very open. So you should have no issues there.
Okay, perfect. We don't have any other questions at this time, but we'll go ahead and stay on for a few more minutes in case anything does pop up. We will be sending out this presentation after we end, and we wanted just to thank you again for taking the time out of your day to visit us. So, thank you.